Where to begin? Alright, I have no idea where to start this. So I've gone kind of insane. So the plan right now is for 11 base languages, out of which we will make 24 more modern languages, by which I mean, you know how you got like Latin and ancient Greek, those are kind of your base languages, and your modern languages would be English, German, French, Italian, whatever. Here's the mind map I've got going for my languages, just so you can see like the basic ideas I have. I'm using FreePlane to map this stuff out. Just so you know that I'm not bluffing, I'm actually plotting out these 35 stinking things. But anyway, I'm only actively working on one of those right now. I've gone as far as making a few words here and there, deciding on a few basic language concepts and whatnot, and in future videos we're going to start elaborating on those. Right now I'm going to start with just the basic sounds of a language. I've had a lot of personal work on like the background of languages and sounds and things like that. I've done like dialect work and speech work, and I know you can tell because of how fluently I talk sometimes, but I really have. So for right now I'm going to offer you some resources. The main one for sounds, you're going to probably want to look at the IPA, the International Phonetic Alphabet. It'll show you the places of articulation and things like that. Now bear in mind that the IPA was made up mostly by a group of white British men, so you're going to get a very English perspective on language when you delve deeply into the IPA. Another huge help to me right now is going to be the works of Mark Rosenfelder. He has a website, zompist.com or zompist.org, I'm not sure which one. At Zompist, you're going to find the Language Construction Kit. It is going to be a treasure trove of information, a nice little way to guide you on your process of creating a language. For 99 cents, you can get a Kindle book that contains everything on the website, plus a small guide to just making naming languages, which is what most of my languages will end up just being naming languages, not fully fleshed languages, just something so you can put words on a map or come up with little phrases here and there if you need them in the background for some reason. He's also published some other books out there, also helpfully titled The Language Construction Kit, that you can purchase on Kindle or in paperback form. He's taken the stuff that he's put on his website and he's added to it. He's like basically doubled the size of it, even more. And then he made a second one called Advanced Language Construction. I have both of those books. I also have his Conlanger's Lexipedia, Conlanger's Lexipedia. That's just a listing of words you can then change into other words for your language. Does that make sense? Basically, if you're making a language, you may have moments where you struggle to figure out what words you need to put in your language, and that's the book that can help you figure out what words you need to put in your language. But here's the main thing I want to talk about right now, and it's sounds. Sounds of language, sounds of words, the sounds that you make, that your people will make, your fictional people, your elves, your goblins, your purple people, I don't know. One of the pitfalls in language construction is one that I fell into easily, which was making it sound way too much like English. For a lot of people, they just use the sounds of English with extra in it somewhere, or they'll throw apostrophes and random capital letters into words and things like that. It's an easy trap to fall into, and you're thinking, ooh, I'm making something that's so out there, man, and you're not really. To make something that's really foreign, you need to have a few foreign languages under your belt if you can. Luckily with YouTube, you can go out there and you can find people speaking in all sorts of languages out there and just get it in your head like, oh, what type of sounds are they doing? And you can look at the IPA chart and try to figure out, okay, it's something to think about. But another thing you want to be looking at or listening for is just the way the sounds are put together. Let's say in English, for instance, you know you have the sounds like t and k and p, but we don't have words like tkp. Even though we have those sounds in English, we don't put them together in that way. We have sounds like v and l, but we don't ever start a word vlagodudu. And you might say to yourself, wait, I know Vladimir Putin, but that's Russian. That's not English. That's not a English sound. Similarly, you might have like Zsa Zsa Gabor. She's Hungarian. It's a sound that appears in English, but it's not a sound that ever appears at the beginning or an end of a word. We only hear that zh sound in the middle of words, like measure or leisure or treasure. So there are like underlying rules with syllable formation and word formation that English has. Like we can do Trilum Piliumpisk. It's a possible word in English. It doesn't actually mean anything, but you can tell that it's something that could possibly have happened. In Japanese, you basically have syllables that are always consonant followed by vowel, and sometimes the letter N. You don't ever have stuff like stra or klo or things like that. It's always koko, no. But anyway, it just makes the characteristic Japanese sound where there's lots of syllables and they're all very short, and they're always ending on a vowel. So if you ever hear Japanese people trying to speak English, they have a hard time with those final consonants, I should say. I'm starting with the Pktktptpkkt language, and I've decided what sounds are in it and how the syllables are formed, and from there I can randomly make words together. There's a utility on Zompus where you can put in the sounds of your language and it'll auto-generate fake syllables for you and fake words, and from there you can be like, oh, I like that word, I can use that one, I can steal this one, I don't like that one, that looks stupid. I'm coming up with some weird things here. It's a good learning tool, and I've made use of that one extensively. I needed to elaborate a bit more here. A language's rules can be very broad or they can be very nitpicky. English is a very nitpicky sort of language. You can have something like flat, but you can't have vlat. You can have glick, slick, plick, but you can't have tlick, or schlick, or zlick. And that's just how English works. Meanwhile, in German, schlick is a perfectly valid word possibility. You can even see it here in Texas at the Schlitterbahn. So with this first language that I'm developing, I went with a very general rule. Words can only start with a stop plosive or a fricative. A stop plosive being like t, k, p, something that impedes the air, stops it, and then explodes it. Or a fricative, like f, s, things that just impede the air and make that kind of frictiony sound. My basic syllable type is optional consonant, vowel, optional consonant. I made a little wrinkle at the end of a word that nouns always end in vowels and verbs always end in consonants. I haven't made any other rules in any other parts of speech just yet, most notably adjectives, which can be treated like nouns or they can be treated like verbs. I'll make a choice at some point. But anyway, that's just a stylistic choice I decided to go with for this language. I may decide to modify it later. This is the base language of a tree, so there's at least 2 children to this language. One may go in one direction, one may go in the other direction. Changes can happen. This is a fun little journey I'm on. So a lot of the process of making up a language is, in fact, making it up as you go along. In the future, I really ought to go out and film the video, then make the script from that video, then go back and reshoot the video later, because it's hard for me to write a script first. Like right now, it's hard for me to just talk off the cuff. But once I've started talking off the cuff, it is easy for me to then go back and refine that. But for some reason, it's hard for me to write it first. Things to consider.